Vice President J.D. Vance brought his charisma vacuum to Fox News this afternoon to try and clear up some of the messes the Trump administration finds itself in. In this interview with Martha McCallum, they talked about everything from AI to the administration's immigration policy to the government shutdown. But the problem is, every time J.D. Vance gets an opportunity to look presidential, he somehow makes even the least charismatic Republicans look good. And as this horse race in the Republican Party starts to shape up for 2028, you can see after this interview why a lot of Republicans are nervous about JD Vance becoming the nominee. So let's dive into what he said in this interview. One of my favorite parts of this whole interview was Martha McCallum asking him the question, do you want to be president? And while I do think those questions are a little bit BS-y, his response and the laugh that I will never get over JD Vance's laugh. The laugh that goes along with this question and what he says after is pretty comical and a little sad to watch. Let's take a look.
Together.
But surely, as vice president, you'd like to be president.
Well, look, I think, again, I'm going to try to do as good of a job as I can right now. So one of the things that I don't like about this question and this entire perspective is I've been in this job for all of a year. About 6 months ago, a year and 6 months ago, I asked the American people to give me this job that I have right now. Why don't I do as good of a job as I can in this job? We'll worry about the next job sometime in the future.
Okay. Here's another person.
This is actually something I think JD Vance and I can agree on. I do agree that he should focus on being a good vice president right now because it's not happening. We have watched him do nothing but cozy up to the most dystopian parts of the far right internet in this, billionaire centric technocratic part of the conservative MAGA world. That's who he courts. And we've seen him sow division in the aftermath of things like the assassination of Charlie Kirk, where he used it as an opportunity to drive further divisions between conservatives and Democrats and try to create an environment where, the Trump administration was cracking down on media free speech and, doing bogus things like declaring Antifa a well-run democratic terrorist organization in the country. That doesn't really sound like somebody who's doing the job of the vice president very well, or has any seriousness of extending olive branches to all Americans were they to run for and become president. The other part of this, someone needs to teach JD Vance how to laugh. I don't understand, and I get it. He's a robotic man who doesn't seem to understand humor, and he has no natural humor or charm or charisma. But every time he tells these jokes and tries to laugh, it is just so deeply uncomfortable to watch. And it gives that energy of Jeb Bush running for president in 2015 and telling people to please clap for him. It feels like every time JD Vance laughs, he's trying to beg people to laugh along with him, despite the fact that nothing he's said is particularly funny. Now, in this interview as well, he's obviously asked about the administration's immigration policy, and Martha McCallum said, what is the administration actually? What have they changed recently? And this was his unsatisfactory response. Let's take a look.
Lady.
So on immigration, can you describe how it's going to look different now after the Minnesota surge? And is Tom Homan now leading this immigration push to try to remove more people who are here illegally?
Well, Tom Homan's always been a critical part of what we've done at the border and when it comes to immigration enforcement. What we've consistently said is that we want to deport violent criminals, people who came in under the Biden administration illegally, and get them out of our country so that Americans' wages can go up, so that American streets can be safer. Tom's been an important part of that, but of course, Kristi Noem's been an important part of that. Our DHS Secretary, Stephen Miller, at the White House has been an important part of that.
There are a couple of things I want to talk about from this clip. First of all, notice that she asked what the administration is changing about their immigration approach. JD Vance doesn't have an answer for that because the administration has done nothing to change their immigration approach. They have yet to come out and say, hey, we're willing to make even the most minor changes to the way ICE operates because they don't care. they, as we've talked about, I've talked about this in a previous video, they basically threw Tom Homan into Minneapolis for 10 days so they could claim that he'd fixed everything and claim victory before pulling troops out of Minneapolis. But nothing has changed. We're in a government shutdown. Republicans refuse basic accountability measures. And the administration, through JD Vance and people like the president and Kristi Noem, obviously, have signaled no willingness or no actual measurable change to their approach yet. So that's the first part. Second of all, this argument from the administration that they're getting rid of illegal immigrants to bring American wages up. I want to show you time and again, we have seen that studies have been done where illegal immigration does not actually have any impacts on the wages of American workers. And, they can say it does. It doesn't. There's been enough study done on this that when, a lot of immigrants, illegal immigrants come to the country and do certain jobs, particularly agricultural jobs, and then they leave them, American citizens do not fill those jobs. They are looking for other work. And so through this, that's the new narrative they're clearly trying to test. It's not true, and it's not going to work. And then I think one of the other crazy things about this is him tipping his cap to Tom Homan, Stephen Miller, and Kristi Noem at the end of this clip, and saying that they've been this vital part of the administration's immigration policy. Is the vital part them calling American citizens domestic terrorists? Is the vital part the freedom that they've given this federalized police force to go out and hurt and shoot and kill American citizens? Because I don't think people from the administration, people like JD Vance, need to go out and tip their cap to those people right now. And people like Stephen Miller, who have obviously the most dark, abhorrent views on, immigration and immigration enforcement possible. And one of the final topics they talked about in this conversation was about AI. And not only did he try to AI explain something to an AI CEO after he watched a clip about it that he disagreed with, he just kind of brought it back to all of the BS MAGA culture war stuff and the woe is me stuff we're used to seeing the far right talk about. So let's see what JD Vance had to say about AI regulation.
Number of things, Martha. I worry about companies using artificial intelligence to surveil Americans. I worry about invasions of privacy. I worry a lot about political bias. If you go back to 2020, 2021, Google search was so biased in a left-wing direction that I think it actually changed America's political system. I don't want that to happen with artificial intelligence. So there are a lot of things we are worried about. There are a lot of things that we're focused on at the White House.
Now, a couple things here. First of all, they're always going to be obsessed with 2020, and because they're determined to believe and convince people that they should have won it. Left-wing media bias did not swing the election in 2020. If anything, influence and interference from foreign actors like Russia, who had a vested interest in making sure the right-wing candidates like Donald Trump won, then maybe we can talk about that, given we know how actively they did that in 2016. Obviously, they have done it in subsequent elections as well. So that this whole woe is me part about, well, we want neutral political coverage and neutral political bias. We know that's not true. We're watching them right now try to exercise a takeover of and create a conservative media conglomerate beyond Fox News to shove conservative propaganda and conservative views down the throats of the American people. We've seen that happen with the Barry Weiss takeover of CBS. We've seen that happen with, CBS Paramount trying to take over Warner Bros. As opposed to Netflix, so they can continue to push conservative views and conservative ideology through different methods to the American people. So this whole claim that he just wants some neutral political bias is BS. And I think finally, it's interesting that he has a concern about he has a concern about people's personal privacy due to AI, given what we've recently seen from this administration, which is the fact that DHS has gone out and subpoenaed the major social media platforms to turn over contact information and user information of users who are targeting ICE. That is an actual invasion of privacy. So, spare me if I don't believe the fact that he's really concerned about it. And that's what this interview ended up coming down to. JD Vance shows up with no charisma, no forward-thinking plans, no clarity on how the administration actually plans to alter their approach and on some of their policies that are obviously deeply unpopular with the American people. And at the end of the day, Donald Trump performs confidence, even though he says terrible things and is one of arguably the worst president we've ever had. JD Vance just projects bleakness, and it just doesn't work. I mean, if this is the future of MAGAism, it's looking pretty bad. That is it for me today. If you liked what you saw in this video, throw a like on it. Follow the Demwins Media YouTube channel. Follow me at buildingthebench.substack.com, and we will keep bringing you the news as you need to see it. Thanks for watching.